Hi there, and this is part 8 of my Silver Solstice series. This is an analysis of my most recent channeled video, Rainbow Portal, Silver Ray, and the Two Worlds Split, Winter Solstice 2017. So, I'm looking a little bit I'm looking a little bit lost here. I'll tell you for why. I just recorded part 8, the whole thing, and then I realised I hadn't pressed record. This is me not being used to doing too many recordings in front of the camera, and I'm just talking away about all this stuff, and I didn't record it. So I'm sat here talking to nobody. So I'm going to do it all again now. But I guess this must have happened. You know, it's just, it happens, doesn't it? So it must have happened for a reason. So okay. The last part, which was part 7, I'll just recap the last little piece of that, because the next bit talks about that. So going back to the last little bit of part 7, yet once you walk through the rainbow portal of the Winter Solstice 2017, you are coated with rainbow light, if you will. And even when you walk back and find yourself within the old world, upon the old earth, you stand within your own protective casing, a rainbow reality bubble, if you will, for you take the energy of the new world with you wherever you go. So that was analysed in part 7. So going into part 8, this is the living in the 5th dimension. And for those who align themselves with this energy, know that the Winter Solstice 2017 is a time for you to rejoice, for you shall remain holding the rainbow codes. It has been difficult for you to sustain this energetic for extended periods of time due to the separating yet still merged 3rd dimension and 5th dimension, or old earth, new earth. Now the two-world split occurs within your month of December, culminating upon your Winter Solstice 2017. Due to this, it will be much easier for you to sustain 5th dimensional energy for extended periods of time. So this is the living in the 5th dimension, and what the 9 are referring to there are you finding yourself within the old world, upon the old earth, standing within this protective casing, this rainbow reality bubble, if you will. You're taking the energy of the new world with you wherever you go. So it's like you're taking a piece of the new earth, the 5th dimensional energy, and wrapping it around you like a bubble. You go back to the 3rd dimensional world, the 3rd dimensional earth, the old earth, and you are encased within a reality bubble of new earth energy or 5th dimensional energy. Therefore, you're taking the 5th dimension with you wherever you go. And that's what the 9 mean when they say this is the living in the 5th dimension. So that saying of the world but not in it makes absolute sense here, because you are of the world, you are of the old earth, you are of the 3rd dimension, but you're not in it, you're not encased within it, because you are surrounded by this rainbow casing, this rainbow protective casing, or this rainbow reality bubble. And another way of explaining this would be to say you are surrounded by a vortex. Now this vortex is the 5th dimensional energy. If you can imagine that you are in it, if you can literally imagine this rainbow vortex around you, another word for this is hermetic seal. Hermetic seal is really used to keep something private, sealed, and away from infiltration. It is a protective energy. So it's not quite a hermetic seal, but it's similar. It's a rainbow vortex. And when you're in this, you are centered within 5th dimensional energy. So wherever you go, whoever you speak to, using that analogy I used before, you're sitting on the bus next to someone and you're in the new earth and they're in the old earth. You are in the 3rd dimension, in the same world, on the same bus, next to somebody that's in 3D, but you are in this vortex energy, this rainbow reality bubble, this rainbow casing of 5th dimensional energy around you. For those who align themselves with this energy, so anyone aligning themselves with this energy, Know that the winter solstice 2017 is a time for you to rejoice. So this is a time for you to really be happy and to be glad and be joyful, for you to sit there and say, yes, this is what I've waited for. This is amazing. You can say these things. And for those who align with this energy, the 9 are saying, know that the winter solstice is a time for you to rejoice, for you shall remain holding the rainbow codes. So as you have this vortex, this rainbow vortex of 5th dimensional new earth energy around you, what that's a reflection of, if you like, a mirror of, are the rainbow codes. And these rainbow codes are within you, within the DNA structure, within the energy body, within the chakra system. You're holding them. So this rainbow vortex is simply a interpreted visual of what's inside you in your actual genetic makeup. It has been difficult for you to sustain this energetic for extended periods of time. So it's been difficult for us to remain within 5th dimensional energy and in the new earth. Ever since the 11-11-11, the 21st of December 2012, when we've gone into this energy, we've manifested this new earth, we've been living in this 5th dimension, it's been difficult to sustain periods of time. We would find we'd fall back into the 3rd dimension. 3rd dimensional events would occur, and 3rd dimensional people would come into our lives, and we'd feel 3rd dimensional emotions. Nothing bad about that, all part of the transformative process. But many of us have wanted to sustain that 5th dimensional energy because it feels so good and it creates such amazing synchronicity and magic in our lives, and it gets us into alignment with our path that we want to sustain that energy. But it hasn't been easy for us to do that. So it's been difficult for you to sustain this energetic for extended periods of time due to the separating yet still merged 3rd dimension and 5th dimension, or old earth, new earth. So the metaphor used there is these 2 earths merged and separating, trying to separate. So it's a very different metaphor. You can use the metaphor of earths being superimposed, 2 earths, 3 earths, different dimensions. There are so many different models to explain this. And what's happening is so complex and so geometric and so quantum. It is quite difficult to put this into words, which is why there's so much misinterpretation as people take things so literally. And yet part of it's literal as well. So it's not easy to explain. So the metaphor to use with that particular piece, 2 earths merged, but trying to pull apart, trying to come apart, trying to become separate. And that's a transition period. And that's why it's been so difficult for us to sustain, because it's a transition period. It's a halfway house. It's a path from one state to another. It's the rainbow bridge, if you like. So this has been trying to pull apart. And the other metaphor I could use is a birth. This is the labor. This is the the confinement of mother giving birth. So you've got these labor pains and everything that goes with giving birth. So it's a wonderful creative time, but that it's not without its difficulties and challenges, as any mother will know who's had a baby. So that's the birthing. So it's been difficult to sustain that energy because of that. Now the 2 world split occurs within your month of December, culminating upon your winter solstice 2017. Due to this, it will be much easier for you to sustain 5th dimensional energy for extended periods of time. So this 2 world split, the earth's coming apart, becoming separate. There's a release. There is form that's taken place with this. This is the birth. The baby has been birthed. So this is the after pains. This is the afterglow. This is the next phase, if you like. And this 2 world split culminates in this month of December with the the culmination of this, the highest spike, being on the winter solstice 2017. So such a day to rejoice. 21st of December 2017, such a day to rejoice. Obviously, this is the summer solstice if you're over the other side of the world. All of this is still happening. There is a slight difference in energy, but if you're in the summer solstice, but that's really to do with the light that's around and the sun, where the sun is and the planets, but it's still a two-world split in the same way. So due to this, it will be much easier for you to sustain fifth dimensional energy for extended periods of time. So the reason for that is we're keeping this vortex of rainbow energy around us. And I think this is wonderful news. And I, for one, am excited to see how this works. And if we can sustain, you know, if what the nine are saying here, if we can sustain 5D energy for longer extended periods, that's something to really, really be happy about. Because if you are in that fifth dimensional energy, you are creating magic and synchronicity in your life. But don't forget, this is an integration of the third dimension. It is not a leaving behind of the third dimension. It is an integration. There will be many of you activated starseeds who are sustaining this energy almost permanently. So many starseeds are sustaining this fifth dimensional energy, keeping this protective rainbow vortex casing around them almost permanently in all that you do, which is fantastic. And that's why I think the nine used the word protective, because it is a protection, even though there is a potential negative aspect of visualizing protection, because then you put out this sort of energy that suggests there's something you need protecting from. So it's not used in that way. It's not used as in I'm protecting you from danger. It's not. It's more protection like if you were to go into the water and you didn't want to get wet, so you would put on some kind of protective suit. It's more that kind of protection. It's more like a casing, a covering, rather than protection as in stopping something bad from happening to you. It's not really that kind of protection. So if you're aware of that, you aren't going to manifest that particular vibration where you create something to be protected from, because it isn't that kind of protection. It's more about a casing, a covering, an enfolding, a bubble, a vortex, that sort of thing. We say almost, for your third dimensional bodies still have catching up to do, if you will. So they're saying here that you are almost holding this fifth dimensional energy permanently. Almost permanently. And the reason why it's almost and not completely is because your third dimensional bodies still have catching up to do. So if you think of the fifth dimensional aspect, the fifth dimensional self, the new earth, this is in a non-linear time period. There's still a somewhat linear movement here compared to, say, source perspective, but it's nowhere near linear like we experience here in the third dimension. The reality is nothing like the third dimensional linear perception. It is non-linear. Certainly the most non-linear we will have experienced if we've lived in the third dimension for the whole of this lifetime. This is the most non-linear experience we will have in this lifetime. So the reason why the third dimensional self has catching up to do is because the fifth dimensional body, because it's non-linear, it's already happened. There's no time, no linear time. So the fifth dimension exists, the new world exists, the new earth exists, your light body has been built, it's flourishing in all its glory. The rainbow DNA crystalline template is in its full formation. It's happened already. You, in the third dimension, are going through what's already happened. So there's a 5D you and a 3D you. And you are in the 3D you catching up with the 5D you, if you like, because in third dimension you're in linear time, in the fifth dimension you are not. It's like that saying in the Matrix film, the Matrix trilogies. I think somebody's speaking to Neo and someone says to him, you've already made the decision. Now you need to remember why you made the decision. So it's the same thing. You've already created your light body and you're already living in the new earth. Now your body needs to remember that it created the light body and that it's living in the new earth. So we're catching up. And then the 9 say the memory activations will assist you here. So they're saying that memory activations will assist your third dimensional body to catch up with the fifth dimensional body. Why would memory activations assist you? Well, it's because you are using memory to move from the third dimensional linear time of the old earth into the fifth dimensional non-linear time of the new earth. Because memory is how the third dimensional brain interprets knowing. We interpret knowing because we live in linear time, so we interpret knowing as something that's happened before, something that's in the past or the future. It's difficult for us in the third dimension to stand within knowing, because knowing, full knowing, which is 0 point energy, is outside of the third dimension. So we're changing the way the brain works, the way the brain thinks, and we're changing the way that the DNA is formulated through the way we think, the way that we can grasp these concepts. And at first it can seem really difficult to grasp these metaphysical concepts, but when we can hold these concepts, and this is what the 9 is saying about sustaining, it's not easy to sustain a multidimensional metaphysical way of thinking. When I do this, I can hold that thought and I can see all these different perspectives and dimensions and hold this expanded thought. But can I sit there and do that all day? No, I'd go crazy. I have to relax, move it away, and then just, right, my brain has got to like recover now from that, and I'm going to go veg out in front of the TV or put my foot up and have a book or have a really down-to-earth conversation with someone. And I want to get back into 3D thinking to get my brain sort of back to normal, if you like, even though I'm not normal, going back to normal, but you know what I mean. And that's a good thing because it's grounding. That's your grounding, that's your anchor. You certainly don't want to lose that, because if you were to go out into metaphysical thinking all the time, you couldn't function in the third dimensional reality. And this third dimensional reality is in a process of integration and in a process of change. It's not fifth dimensional yet. So we are pioneers for this, if you like. We are creating this. Every time we think in a metaphysical, multi-dimensional sense, we're creating this reality together. So the memory activations will assist you here. So memory activations, what they're doing is they are allowing our memory to move from linear experience into the non-linear experience of knowing. So if we take source, being source as an example, I could say to you, I remember being source. Before I was born, before I was incarnated into form, I was source consciousness. And I decided that I would create a reality and I would create all these incarnations and I would go into all these incarnations and experience them. That is what I did before I was born in the past. So that's how I make sense of this memory, because I'm experiencing linear time. So fifth dimensional memory, multi-dimensional memory, will be more like this. I am source. I am source right now. And as I am source, I create all these physical incarnations to experience simultaneously. I am this and I know this. So that is the multidimensional memory. That's the multidimensional knowing. So it's a shift from memory. I was this, I remember being this, to I am this. I know I am this. It's the same thing. So memory becomes knowing. That's what the 9 are saying here when they say your third dimensional bodies have catching up to do. The memory activations will assist you here. So, okay, great. Let's have some assistance in this, because that is very, very gratefully received. So, what are the memory activations? We speak of the visualizations that assist with the memory of the diamond light and the true source vibrations, the crystal palace within, the ascended master templates, and the codes of the sacred wheel, the vertical pillar of light, the horizontal rainbow bridge pathway, the diagonal streams of the matrix, and the pivot point central core that is the 0 point. So they're telling us here what the memory activations are, so that we know what will assist us with this expanded memory into knowing. We speak of the visualizations that assist with the memory of the diamond light and the true source vibrations. So the memory of the diamond light. So this is the memory of completion. The diamond is complete. The diamond is a facet of the all. It's the apex of the rainbow. It is the uppermost point. It is the fully formed DNA template. It is the crystalline. It's not just a crystalline DNA template. It is the crystalline energy, which is the Kryst. That can be Christ, spelled C-H-R-I-S-T, Christ consciousness, the Christ, or it can be Kryst, which is closer, which is K-R-Y-S-T, or crystal. Somebody spoke to me earlier in the week and asked me if I could talk more about the Emerald City of Krysta. And while that's a different visualization, what I will touch on is the Krysta, K-R-Y-S-T-A. The Krysta is the 5th dimensional landscape template for the Kryst. The Kryst is the all. It is the ultimate code for source, and the diamond light is the apex of that. The diamond light is that. The diamond and the Kryst are one and the same energy. And the true source vibrations, and that's the same thing. The true source vibrations is the Kryst, the Krysta, the Christ consciousness, the diamond light. They are all the same. This is the ultimate focused innermost point of source, which contains the codes for everything that has ever gone before, everything that's happening now, and everything that can happen. But it's pure creation wrapped up in a point, in a pulse, pure creation. And everything, nothing is set. So everything that's ever gone before in your entire life, that even that can be changed. It can't be changed for you, for the consciousness that you exist within in the 3rd dimension, because it's happened and you've lived it. But when you're in the Kryst, the core, the diamond light, the true source vibrations, everything can be changed from that point, because that's pure creation. So that's the memory you're looking for. You are looking to remember that diamond light core, that Kryst. That's the code. That is the crystal code. And that is what you are looking for, because that is the key to your entire ascension. It's the key to your light body. It's the key to the new earth. It's the key to changing everything in this vibration and becoming the full realization of who and what you are. It is everything your soul is here to experience, as well as your physical body. That is the key. That is the key you are looking for. So the 9 go on to talk about the types of visualizations that assist with the memory of the diamond light. So these visualizations they talk about are hyperspace worlds, buildings, structures. Now, if you don't know what they mean, I'm going to talk here about the Crystal Palace. If you don't know what the Crystal Palace is and you've never ever heard of the Crystal Palace consciously, that doesn't matter, because your DNA knows exactly what it is. You share DNA with every other being on this planet and with every other being on all the planets and with the diamond light, the Kryst core. That is your ultimate DNA. It all comes from the same place. It is that, and it's inside you. That code is in you, and it knows everything. So it understands. It's a language. We call this the language of light. And the 9 talk about these structures as being alphabetical numerals because they are number and letter simultaneously merged. They're neither number nor letter. They are both merged. So there is no word to explain what that is. Hieroglyph might possibly fit, but alphabetical numeral is my interpretation of this merged number and letter, because there was no word in the English language, and alphabetical numeral was the one that fit, even though it's not really a word. So they're number and letter merged, and the DNA knows exactly what they are. This is a sacred language. It is a universal language. It is a cosmic language. It's the language of light. And these are the structures for that language. They are structures of geometry. And so the Crystal Palace is a 5th dimensional structure that mirrors this geometric code that's in the 6th dimension, and it mirrors this language of light alphabetical numeral. It is that. Now, how you construct your Crystal Palace is up to you. What do you think of when the word Crystal Palace is spoken to you? What do you conjure up in your mind? So let that happen. I won't influence you in what that can be, but just think of a Crystal Palace. And that's your structure, and you can change it and you can work with it. It is your inner sanctuary. It is your hermetic seal. It is your inner code. It is the chakra system. So the energy system of the body. It is the DNA code. It is the pineal gland. So you've got your sight. It is a wonderful tool to use in hyperspace, the Crystal Palace. So thinking of the Crystal Palace, imagining the Crystal Palace, drawing pictures of the Crystal Palace, writing stories about the Crystal Palace, poetry, whatever it may be, that is assisting you with the memory of the Kryst and the diamond light and the true source vibrations. Just thinking of that palace, and you can imagine that you're sitting inside your Crystal Palace, and you can just imagine it all around you. And even if you don't consciously know what you're doing, the DNA is picking up what you are doing, and the DNA is receiving a message which says, I wish to activate, I wish to create the crystalline structure, I wish to build my Merkaba, I wish to go forward into the light body. That's what you are saying to the DNA when you visualize the Crystal Palace. It's so powerful. The Ascended Master templates. So that is another visualization assisting with the diamond light. So the Ascended Master templates would be the Ascended Masters, the visualizations of the Ascended Masters. This is all 5th dimensional constructs that are representatives of 6th dimensional geometric form. So you don't have to go to the 6th dimension and imagine geometry and work with a Merkaba. You can do, and that's wonderful as well. But if you're happier in the 5th dimension with Ascended Masters wearing long silver robes, like Merlin perhaps with a big Merlin hat, and other Ascended Masters with their beautiful clothing, unicorns and the beautiful Crystal Palace, if you're happier with form, it's no different. It's just the 5th dimension as opposed to the 6th. The 6th isn't higher than, it's just, they're all side by side really, or inside one another, or whichever way you want to view the dimensions. But no one dimension is better than the other. We need them all. So the Ascended Master templates would be the Ascended Masters. So work with the Ascended Masters. And if you only work with the Ascended Masters for the rest of your life, and you don't go to the Crystal Palace, and you don't go to the geometries, you will still get there. You will still create the Kryst, the crystalline code, the diamond light. You will still do this because all of these are pathways in, and there are loads of them. Different religions have them. You don't have to work this way. This is just one way of working to change the biological structure of the human body from a carbon-based molecule to a crystalline-based molecule. That's what we're doing. The codes of the sacred wheel. So I love the sacred wheel. We're going into 6th dimensional geometry now when we go to the sacred wheel. All of this is taught quite in depth in my most recent book, Divine Architecture and the Starseed Template. So there's a lot of information about this, and you know, I love working with the geometry, the 6th dimensional geometry. So the sacred wheel, you'd be looking at the vertical pillar of light. So you're doing exactly the same thing. Instead of sitting in a crystal palace or visualizing a crystal palace, riding on a unicorn and talking to Ascended Masters, you are working with geometry instead. It's the same thing. You're just going directly to the geometric template rather than using the form. I like both. I love both, and I will work with Ascended Masters, unicorns, fairies, angels, pixies, the whole 5th dimensional landscape. Love the Crystal Palace, work with it all the time, but I will go to the geometry as well. Now, when it comes to working with the sacred wheel, you can literally visualize this, or you can actually stand. So we're working with the vertical pillar of light. So you can imagine I'm sat here. I can imagine the vertical pillar of light as a pillar of light literally coming up through the floor, up through the chakra system, up through the crown of my head, and up into an infinite pillar that's just going on forever, and then coming back down, down through the crown chakra, down through the chakra systems, out through the floor, and going down, down, down forever. And actually they meet. They're a never-ending vertical line, and they meet. Because that vertical line, even though it's vertical when we are perceiving it with that geometry, it's actually, you're working with time here. So time doesn't stay straight, time changes shape, so it's spiraling, I guess. But in order to conjure up or construct the sacred wheel, the divine architecture, and the Starseed template, one would work with the vertical in that visualization. All of this, the DNA knows what you're doing. You are building your Kryst. You are building your crystalline structure when you do this consciously. So the other way of doing this would be to stand. You don't have to sit down. And the 9 say to take Tadasana, which is anyone who does yoga will know that that is mountain pose. Mountain pose this is what mountain pose was originally created for. It's the first stance before you begin your asanas. And it's the same with the building of the divine architecture. You take Tadasana, mountain pose, as your first construct. That's the vertical pillar of light. Because all of these are one. The vertical pillar of light, the horizontal, they're all the same place. It's one point, it's the Kryst. It's one point. But because we have to analyze in a 3rd dimensional sense, we have this 3rd dimensional brain, this interface, it's very difficult for us to build a structure from one point, from the diamond light. Some can do it. But I have really been helped by working with the 5th dimensional imagery and the 6th dimensional geometry to understand what that diamond light, what that Kryst is. So we take it out and we take it into form, into space, into shape, into structure, so that we can align with it and allow ourselves to understand it on a vibrational level. So it doesn't matter if we don't understand it here in the mind, we understand it in the heart and in the DNA and at a cellular level. So we can stand in Tadasana and then visualize the pillar of light. Then we would go into the horizontal rainbow bridge pathway, which is forward in front of you and behind you. So in front of you, you are looking at the future. Behind you, you are looking at the past. The vertical pillar, upwards, you are looking at the overworld, the higher dimensions, the cloud structures. Quite sinister that the internet used the term the cloud, because it's up there, but you know, you can use that to your advantage as well. That's a whole other subject anyway. And then going down into the underworld, you can call these heaven dimensions and hell dimensions. It doesn't mean that the hell dimensions are bad. It's simply the other opposing polarity to the heaven dimensions. Up and down, overworld and underworld. All of this is covered really deeply in my book. So I won't go too far into this. I want to just give you the understanding and the activation for you to be able to take away what you're doing and how this is assisting you with that memory of the Kryst, which is knowing. And as you access that knowing, you build your crystalline structure and you create a crystalline molecule within your body. So we've got forward into the future, back into the past, we've got up, we've got down, then we've got the horizontal rainbow bridge pathway going side to side, which is the quantum world. These are the choices that you made, the choices that you could have made, the forks in the road, if you like, the alternate selves. They're all left to right. So you have this sacred cross, up, down, left, right, forward, back, and then you bring in the diagonal axis, which comes in this way and this way. If you look at the front cover of the book Divine Architecture and the Starseed Template, if you look at the front cover of the book, which is on my website, you'll see the diagram, that little rainbow colored diagram of the up, the down, left to right, forward and back. Couldn't really draw the forward and back on the cover, but the diagonal, and the diagonal is the ancestral lines. So that's ancestral memory. It's all about memory. The future, I remember the future, I remember the past, I remember the quantum aspect, and I remember the ancestral lines. So that is your sacred wheel. And the 9 say the horizontal rainbow bridge pathway, the diagonal streams of the matrix, and the pivot point central core, that is the 0 point. That is the solar plexus pivot point. So you would imagine that all of these points of this sacred wheel are meeting at the solar plexus, but you draw this. The reason why you choose the solar plexus is because it is the magical center, it is the core, it is the power. But you don't want to just stay connected to that. That is a different path. It's more akin to a service to self path, because you would go down in a service to self path, down and anchor the lower chakras only and ignore these. What the starseeds do, the service to others vibratory beings will do, is take that power of the solar plexus and draw it up to the heart and follow on. So the heart and the solar plexus are joined. They are your anchor points for all of these different vibratory geometries. So everything comes from the solar plexus and the heart together. So as you build your divine architecture, you are building the Kryst. So you are building the crystalline structure. You are creating a crystalline molecule. So thank you very much for listening. I'll leave part 8 there, and then I will be back soon with part 9. Thank you for listening. See you again soon. Bye. We are now at a time in our planetary evolution known as ascension. Those individuals we can call starseeds are currently in their millions and are collectively going through this awakening process. In this book, the 9 bring forward memory triggers designed to act as a catalyst into the awakening process. They present a model of working with the individualized matrix field, known also as the Merkaba, through matrix architecture, Merkaba magic, and the golden triad of ascension, presenting an in-depth analysis and explanation of the twin flame consciousness and how this relates to the ascension, as well as providing triggers to the collective memory experience known as Atlantis. This transmission is designed to trigger your multidimensional memory as you begin the construction of the Merkaba matrix and embrace the inner archetype of the architect. The triggers contained within this material are there to assist you in accessing the codes for the new formation of the original crystalline DNA matrix. I, Magenta Pixie, am so happy to present this transmission to you from the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of 9. Divine Architecture and the Starseed Template.